Welcome to MamaTokTok's A Different Take, a podcast where everyday people around the globe share a different take on everyday issues. I'm your host, Ebi Mambo, and I'm pleased you're joining us today. Welcome.
Justin, welcome to MamaTokTok's A Different Take. I am thrilled to have you on. How
I
are
am thrilled to
you?
be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's so awesome because I have not had a chance to have a conversation before of this kind with a single dad. So for the viewers and listeners, we'll be talking about single parenting today, but from a single dad's perspective. But before we get right in, just to welcome to the show. And one thing I always do with my guests is to ask you to introduce yourself to the audience in your own words.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would tell you that Obama and I just jumped on, and we have not prepared for this at all. So this is going off the cuff, and I think that
Yes.
sometimes is the best way to do things. But my name's Justin Ergler. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm the proud dad of a 6-year-old boy named Leo. And when I say single dad, I think sometimes terminology gets switched around depending on where you are in the world. His mom is in his life, and we split custody, and we work hard together to make sure that Leo gets a great upbringing. But I also have a professional corporate job. That's how I met this wonderful woman named Abam, and that's very important, for obvious reasons. But most important job I have is being a dad, and I'm really proud of that. So.
And I'm so thrilled to have this conversation for a number of reasons. One of them is, I keep reminding everybody who listens on this show that the reason I created Mama Talk Talk and our mission statement is to bring diverse perspectives, right, to the table from different parts of the world and from people in different walks of life. Because, we're talking earlier just about how we think we're so different, right? And yet, when you
Right.
start talking to people about life's experiences, we're experiencing the same thing, but perhaps in different ways. And that's why there's real value in having some of these conversations. So I'm glad you could jump on and chat to us. So tell us a little about just from the beginning, what does it mean to be a single dad in your day-to-day practical life? What does it look like?
Well, now in my day-to-day practical, in the U.S., or at least in North Carolina, where Leo goes to school, he started first grade this year, which is a wonderful thing and an awesome thing because it's a special time because you know how many people say, "Oh, I met so and so in the first grade, and we've
Yeah,
been friends ever since, and we've been best
yeah,
friends ever since." So it's a special time, and I really wanted that time to be special for Leo as well, even if learning was going to be virtual. So I was very fortunate in the neighborhood that I live in to link up with another family that is whose daughter is in Leo's grade in Leo's school, and so we set up a little what they call a pod, I guess, in the U.S. I don't know what they call it elsewhere, but we set up a little pod where they go to school every day together, and they do their
hmm,
online learning together, and we have a facilitator, and she helps because I work full time.
yeah,
Just like you, I have a full time demanding job, and I think that's sometimes a why maybe you don't hear about as many single dads is because sometimes the single dads are the ones that have full-time jobs and they maybe eschew or maybe they out of necessity or the best interest of the child, they aren't as involved in the child's life. My son is my world, and I'm proud to say that. So I'm fortunate enough to have, an ex-wife who, she and I have worked hard to get on terms where we can be good co-parents for Leo. But when Leo's with
yeah.
me, it's a full-time job, and I'm waking up early in the morning to get emails and get some work knocked out, maybe get a quick workout in. Then Leo gets up and we're getting him ready for school. We're getting homeschool started. Then
Yep.
I'm back to work, and then he's off school, and then it's back to being a dad and making the rest of the day fun. So that's, I guess, a typical day for me. And
Yeah.
it can be, as I'm sure you would agree with, it can be exhausting, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
It's not that it can be exhausting. It is exhausting. But I keep saying that it is in so many ways my life's sacred work, because I can screw up any number of things and then hopefully fix them. But your child, that's one that there's not much room
I
to
couldn't,
maneuver there with the messing up.
I couldn't, I couldn't agree more. And it's both it's gratifying and it can be scary. I mean, because I want to be the best dad I can for Leo, and I want to be the best influence on his life to be a respectful young man. And
Yeah.
I've had the great pleasure. I have a great friend out in California who has two children, and I've had the great pleasure of being a part of their lives as well. And with those three kids, it's such a privilege to help young children grow up to be young men and women.
Yeah.
It's such an incredible responsibility, but it's such a privilege. And it's so amazing when I see Leo work on something and finally achieve it. And we worked on it together. My God, I feel like I did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel
Yes.
proud like I did it. And it's so amazing. So it's just it's one of those things where I don't think I feel bad, honestly. Like some people, I know some friends of mine, some friends that maybe don't have kids that are like, wow, I couldn't imagine going what you're going through right now with homeschool and COVID and all of that stuff. I couldn't imagine not going through it.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine a life where I wasn't able to have a positive influence on the life of my son.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
pride that comes with it, and that just, I mean, it brings tears to your eyes sometimes when your child
It
does
really
something.
does. I'm getting emotional just listening to you, because it's like I've had so far what many people call a really amazing career, right? With being like moving around from North Carolina to Johannesburg to Singapore, and I often get asked this question, which is, "You're a single mom. How do you do it?" Right? And I always say, I don't think about it. I just do it. There's nothing to think about, right?
How do you not do it?
Yeah. There's just you and your kid and
Right.
life. You just do it. And so there's for me, there's been no magic formula. And I think in a way, I look at parenting as one of the most creative things a person can do, right? Because there is no formula. People who think they're not
I
creative but are
completely,
parents.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I'm very fortunate in that Leo has for whatever reason, I'm sure he didn't get it from his dad, but he picks up learning very well. But how do you teach a young boy math in the United States? I'll tell you how I did it. We watch football games and we watch basketball games, and I'll say, how many touchdowns do the Pittsburgh Steelers need to take the lead if they're down by 13 points? And just finding weird ways to incorporate learning into everyday life. The more you can do that, the more it puts them ahead as
Yeah.
far as school goes. But I
Yeah.
completely agree. There is no one formula. There's no, for as many manuals as there are out there, there really is no manual.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what makes that child. At the end of the day, if I feel that Leo has had a good day, been respectful, he's learned, he's smiled, even if he's laughed and cried, if he's smiling at the end of the night, then it was a good day. And guess what?
Yeah.
If we didn't get that, then we're going to wake up again tomorrow and we're
And
going to
try
try again.
again. Right. Right.
And yeah,
Yeah. I don't often
it's
get to
easy
talk
to get
about.
discouraged. I mean, sometimes it's easy to get discouraged as a parent. It's
Yeah.
easy. It's easy to, this didn't go. something at work didn't go the way I wanted it to, something else in life didn't go the way I wanted it to, and something with my child didn't go the way that I wanted it to. It's easy to get down and discouraged, especially as a single parent when you don't have that necessarily that other support partner, right? To help be there
Yes.
with you, right?
Yes.
And to help take the reins and give you a break. But
Yep.
that's where whenever I hear somebody is a single parent, that's where I think, many of us, we have that connection, we have that bond, because we know what it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
A-
and
And can we just talk about
you know
that
what it's
pressure?
like.
Yeah, let's talk about that pressure, because I think for me, especially living half a world away from being that, right?
Mhm.
The pressure to be mom and dad, which I can't be that because I am not dad, right? But that pressure when you're with them and it's just you and you can't pass it off, it's a lot of pressure. I don't know how you deal with that, but I'm curious to hear about how you view that pressure of in the time that Leo is with you. It's all you, man. It's all you. Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm lucky. I'm lucky in the fact that I don't have to necessarily be mom, right? Because his mom is in his life. But when he's with me, you're right. I mean, sometimes I do. I can't be the strong dad all the time. You have to have that empathy. You have to have that what might be considered more motherly characteristics, right? That everything's going to be okay and all that stuff. And I guess I don't necessarily consider those entirely motherly characteristics. I mean, you can be a sensitive dad too, and that's okay. Um, I'm an emotional guy. I'm a lover. My son's a lover, an emotional guy, and I'm proud. I'm proud of that in him.
Yeah.
Um, it's. I think it's important to be able to be a single dad and be able to tell your son it's okay to cry.
That is so important. That is so
It's
incredibly
okay to
important.
have feelings. It's okay to have emotion. It's okay to voice your emotions. It's okay to deal with those in maybe a way that might not be considered quintessentially manly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. You see, not to get too out there, but you see some problems in the world, and you think, well, geez, you know what? Maybe if that kid had just had a hug back in the day,
Or being allowed
we
to
wouldn't have as
cry.
many problems in the world. We wouldn't have as many problems in the world as we do right now. So that's one thing I'm trying to instill in my son is, you want to be strong. You want to be a strong young man, but you also want to be able to have feelings and have emotions and
Yeah.
let those emotions out
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you need to. Yeah.
And that's an interesting one to teach boys because boys don't cry and whatnot. And while you
Right.
have to get in touch with your feminine side and your maternal side, I find that I have to be her, right? And before, it was I was very comfortable with being the spoiler, right?
Right.
I'm like, I carried this baby in my womb for 9 months. He and I have been together from the get-go. So I get to spoil him. But now I can't do that because I know children need balance. So I can't
Right.
be, I
They
can't
need
just
both of
be.
that. They need everything.
So
Yeah.
Justin,
And I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
now finish your thought because I was going to go on to another question.
No. No. I just think that. And it gets back to your point of there not being a manual, there not being necessarily a formula. That's part of the being a parent and being especially a single parent when you're a single dad or a single mom is trying to strike that balance, right? Am I giving the proper amount? And those that nervousness comes in. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing that? And I think we all try to say that we know what we're doing and try not to question ourselves. But I think we'd all be lying if we didn't say that there are moments at night there's moments at night when I go to bed, when I think, did I do the right thing today?
Yep.
And that can be, those can be hard thoughts to deal with. But I mean, again, there's nothing you can do about it at that point in time. You just got to try to fall asleep and wake up the next day and do it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Right.
I normally think about those things, but in the last 2 weeks, my awareness has been heightened because I did this show. It was a 3-part show. I don't know if you saw it before this one, on child sexual abuse. And I cannot tell you, I had a guest on here who I've known for years and never knew that about her. And she came on the show and talked about what she went through. And she was sexually abused as a child, as an 8-year-old, by a household member. If I tell you the nightmares people have had, I've had viewers like text me, put comments saying, oh my God, and just, you talk about parents being paranoid, right? That made me so paranoid. It's like, oh my gosh, who's around my kid? Like, who's around my kid?
Absolutely.
And it's scary because we cannot raise our children alone, right? You have to entrust them at different points in the day to school and so on and so forth. And so when you talk about that anxiety, it's just the last 2 that like, oh my God, this is the thing.
Absolutely.
But, it's just extra pressure. I will say this. It was a tough watch, but it was so incredibly important, really important in terms of understanding how to notice signs, right? Where things might not be quite right, and the kind of conversations we'll be having with our children. But on that more sour note, I'll get off and come back to, when you think back on your own upbringing and your life, just what would you say prepared you to be a single dad? Was there anything that actually prepared you for this? Or was it one of those things where you find yourself in a situation and say, okay, let's go, friends?
Well, I'm ex-military, so not that necessarily that prepared me to be a dad, but as far as our house is a yes sir, no sir house, so that at least gave me the basis of the base of raising a child with respect. And discipline. So that helps with everything from schooling to building Legos, right? Yeah. As far as that discipline helps, and as far as that respect, not only for me, but for himself, and having respect for himself and having respect for others. That I'd like to think that I've helped to develop that and build that in my son Leo. Honestly, when I got divorced, and it was after almost 10 years of marriage, and Leo was 4, going on 4 years old. Yeah, no, 3.5. It was I was thrown into the deep end, and I was doing my best. I was scrambling. I was doing everything I could. I was working full time, and I was scrambling. And I've learned, and he's learned. I think sometimes being a single parent, it's hard not to be roommates with your kid, right? With your kids. It's hard to not treat each other like you're just, living in the same place at the same time. And, I ask him where the mortgage payment is every now and then, and he says he doesn't have it. But I think keeping that friend, confidant, to your previous point, as far as your friend that was brave enough to come on your show and talk about her past experience, being able to be that confidant where your child doesn't look at you as so much of an authoritarian that they can't come to you with difficult situations, maintaining that balance of being that confidant whilst still being a parent and still demanding and expecting respect, but also being that friend, right? That they want to hang out with, because it's hard sometimes when your kid wants to hang out with other kids and not you, right? I've learned that. Sometimes it's like, well, wait,
what's wrong?
Am I not cool to ride bikes with? What's going on here?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of kind of hats that you need to wear, I think, to be an effective parent.
Yeah.
And maintaining the balance between those hats and not getting too deep into any one of them is incredibly important.
Yeah, I mean, what you say there reminds me of something I've always thought about, which is with a lot of single parents, there's a level of intimacy that is built between you and your child. Because like
Yeah.
you said, you can easily fall into roommate syndrome. And I just think about what I have to watch, especially with the pandemic, where I can't go out as much and hang out with as many friends or do things. I have to watch not having adult conversations with the 10-year-old, right? Not putting
Exactly
more
right.
burdens on him. But that's who's there. So you have to gotta be conscious about making sure child zone over here and then the rest. So that level of intimacy is interesting. Now I'm curious, how how does Leo understand your family setup? Because I remember for Balin, I think it took him a while to understand that things were different because we moved out of the country. So he thought maybe it was just the move, even though I had told him. And then one day he comes to me and he's like, "Is Dad gonna be here for my birthday?" And I say, "Yeah, he's gonna be here." He's like, "Okay, because I don't want to be the only kid whose two parents are not there for his birthday party, right?" His father did fly from the US to Singapore for that, but in that moment, I realized it hadn't yet fully dawned on him that our family setup is a little bit different, right? So
Yeah.
how,
Well, it took it took a little while. I mean, it was pretty when we first separated, and it was kind of obvious when we split houses and everything. And I think he kind of took to that and he understood. He has two houses. He gets, at the cliche, two Christmases, and he gets all that stuff, right? But I think over time, his mom and I have developed a good relationship to where mom and dad are there for the important things. We're both there. We work together, and he loves that. He likes that. He understands that mom is getting married, and he's going to have a stepdad. He understands who his dad is, but he understands that we work together because we love him. And at the end of the day, I think any familial situation, the most important thing is making sure that the child knows that they're loved.
yes.
And as I said, I have a special friend out in California that he knows very well, that he cares about a lot, and means a lot to him. And so knowing that there's that love from not just family but friends and things like that, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Um, I think. Sometimes that can be very difficult for children to understand, just what the dynamic is and what is
It
the family
is.
dynamic. And sometimes in some families, when are mom and dad going to get back together? Which I know some friends have experienced, which is very, very difficult because more often than not in those situations, mom and dad aren't getting
And
back
now getting
together,
back
right?
together. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So how do you explain that? How do you broach those subjects? I think it's different in every situation. I think it's different with every kid. I think,
Yep.
you need to give a brutal, harsh reality to a child necessarily. I personally don't think so. I think you let things play out organically unless it becomes a problem, unless there becomes too many questions and you see that it's weighing on the child's mind. I think
Yep.
then you obviously need to tackle the issue. But I think sometimes we need to let kids be kids, and especially in
Yep.
times like these. I mean, has there ever been a harder time to be a kid during the
Yeah.
times of COVID? I don't know. I don't think so. So,
Yeah.
in times like this and sometimes dealing with situations like that, sometimes you just need to let kids be kids and enjoy
Yeah.
life. And if they're happy, and again, if they're going to bed at night with a smile on their face, mom, I love you, dad, I love you, well, then guess what? It was a good day.
It was
And
a
then you
good
wake up
day.
again and try to do it again tomorrow. So,
Yeah. What would you say has been perhaps the hardest part of being a single dad? And then what has been the biggest lesson you've learned about yourself or about, just single parenting?
The hardest part about being a single dad is balancing job with parenting. It's because, I mean, you have an incredibly demanding job as well. And, sometimes you need to get on a phone call at 6:30 at night, right? Or 7:30 at night. Or when we're supposed to be going to the pool and, there's a call and and I need to take it. And sorry, buddy, you have to give daddy 30 minutes. That's hard for me because I know that being a single, and maybe I think through these things way too much, right? But being a single dad, I know that if there was a partner there, he'd be able to go and I'd be able to meet them. And sometimes that makes you feel bad as a parent. But you
Yes.
can't do that. I mean, because they don't recognize that there's a reason why mommy or why daddy is having to take this phone call because they have a demanding job, but that job lets us go to Disneyland, and that job lets us travel to Colombia, and that job lets us travel to Costa Rica, whatever, right?
Yep.
All they know is they don't get to go meet their friends when they were supposed to be able to go meet their friends. And it's because daddy has the work phone call. And so for me, that can be sometimes hard. Other times, I know that I like to think that I'm pretty good at messaging, but I know that sometimes the messaging that I try to deliver doesn't get through. And I, I, I know that if there was another person there, perhaps they might message a different way.
So you don't have the sounding board. Yep.
And it might crack that code, you know? So sometimes I need to muddle through it. But that's okay. But that's been the biggest learning experience too, is that I've learned to, as he's gotten a little bit older. Now he's only 6, right? But as he's gotten a little bit older, he's a smart kid. He's a brilliant child. I've gotten to be able to ask him, Leo, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Help me make sure that you understand what I'm trying to get across to you. Let me know that you get this. Let me know that this makes sense. Do you have any questions? So being able to, again, kind of switch those hats from like the authoritarian, or not authoritarian necessarily, but
I know what you mean.
from like the parent, to the friend, to the roommate, to the whatever, making sure that you're doing the right thing and helping using your child, not as a sounding board, but helping to ask the right questions, to elicit the right responses, to let you know that what you're doing is getting through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in the absence of a third person there, it's up to the two of you.
Yep.
And that's all they're there.
Yep. And what is the thing you've learned about yourself that you didn't know?
What's the thing I've learned about myself that I didn't know? It's that I always wanted to be a dad, but I never knew I would love being a dad. I never knew that I could love somebody that much. I never thought in my life that I could care for someone and love someone and being able to. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I care about me, but I don't care about me. I care about that young man. What I've learned is just how much and what I would do for that young man to make sure that, again, he smiles at the end of the night. That's the name of the game.
Yeah. Wow, Justin.
But
Ooh.
but hey, do we have like 2 more minutes, or do we have to go?
We do.
Okay, we have 2 more minutes. One thing you touched on that I did want to touch on that I think is really cool, and I'm still working through it, and I need to talk to you offline about it. Is that you had said before we started the call that, and when we first started the call, that sometimes people around the world, they think that everybody's so different, and we're all so disconnected, and everybody's lives are so dissimilar. And one of the things that I'm doing with Leo and his homeschool is his facilitator created a passport for them, where they would learn about each of all these different countries. And I said, I've had the good fortune of, traveling personally and professionally and meeting a lot of amazing folks like yourself. And I said, why don't I reach out to some of these folks? And wouldn't it be cool to not just learn about stuff online or in books, but to actually get to talk to kids from different countries? So that's something that I'm doing with Leo. And I encourage, not trying to preach, because, I don't know anything more than anybody else, but I encourage everybody to help your kids reach out and get to know other people that are different than themselves, and not different in a sense of live in different countries, because by meeting people that live in different countries, different spaces, different situations, they'll learn just how similar they are.
Yeah.
We had our first call with friends from Sydney, Australia last week, new friends from Sydney, Australia, and it was incredible. And you put 4 kids on a Zoom call that have never met each other from completely across the world. And next thing you know, they're talking about how high kangaroos can jump, what their favorite foods are, the Sydney Opera House, what you like to eat in North Carolina. And it was that they were kids. Yeah. So if I can encourage anybody to do something during this time, this difficult time, help your kids to be kids. Yeah. Because that's the most important thing that you can do for your kids, and especially during a trying time like this.
Yeah, we all only have one childhood. Justin, this was awesome. I mean, you've made me all emotional at 8:30 in the morning, but I thank you. I wanted to do exactly what you just talked about in the end, which is share what your perspective looks like. And it's a perspective where, to be honest, we don't hear often, right? Especially in the US, we talk about single parents.
Single moms.
Single moms, and a certain kind of single mom, right? So to actually have you come out and talk about
there are dads out there too.
There are dads out there, and that's so important. Yeah. Justin, thank you so much. And actually, I'm hoping you will come back some other time to visit us, and I'm waiting for an invitation to the pod because I told David about it.
Yes, no, absolutely. I will reach out to you offline, and absolutely, I'm trying to figure it all out. I've gotten a lot of response. We have Kenya, India, Canada, Brazil, Colombia, all over the world. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I want Bailey involved. I want you involved. Absolutely. And you and I need to catch up also offline, okay?
We do.
Hey, thank you, my friend.
Take care, Justin.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Catch this preview for what's coming in October and November. What events transformed your life? Hi, I'm Abi Mambo, creator of MamaTokTok and host of MamaTokTok's A Different Take podcast. Join me this fall as I speak to 9 engaging and fascinating people around the world to learn what their defining moments were. But first, catch a sneak preview.
He actually said, if anyone asks you for documents, tell them your dad has it. And I remember being like, that's weird. And then he was saying, you can't tell anyone that we're here illegally.
We felt it immediately.
It almost is as if the moment you step into a room and you are very clearly overweight, it's like this conversation becomes open for everybody to think about what you should be doing to help yourself.
Dave, the vice president, called and said, you need to come to my house right now. And went to his house, and it turns out someone had found what they thought to be a bomb.
Baby Smile at 6 weeks, and this was the 6-week email. It wasn't like she was late, but maybe we had a sense that something was perhaps wrong, because it struck me so hard.
So the first year was good. The second year, we kind of broke even. The third year, it went down.
And he turns around the tissue box. On the other side of the tissue box, he created a handmade sticker in advance which read Dahlia's tissue box.
I was working in the emergency room, and all of a sudden I realized I was in the emergency room bed and being carted off to have an emergency surgery.
And so it was, at the time, it was difficult because you sort of dragged into a situation that is not of your own. Your motives are questioned, your ethics are questioned.
The person that was walking around was not me. It was just a silhouette of me who I could not recognize, and that scared me. That where had I gone? Where had I lost myself in this journey that was supposed to be beautiful?
Well, no, being a mother and trying to be a leader were two difficult things at this time, because I'm trying to process how I'm feeling. I'm angry, I'm upset. I feel like I need to do something, but I don't know what to do.